today we're going to be discussing Northern Renaissance, a focus on symbolism. So, when you think of symbolism, what comes to mind?
Think about like meaningful imagery.
Recognizable objects,
Yeah.
Logos and how they make you remember the product.
In mass media, symbolism is really predominant today. So during the Northern Renaissance, the characteristics of the art are that it's a continuation of late medieval attention to details, and there's a tendency towards realism and naturalism, with less emphasis on the classical ideal. So before this, they used to paint everybody to look really beautiful and perfect, almost like Photoshop today in magazines. So they started to paint peasants and middle class and interiors of buildings and homes that weren't a palace or a king and queen's home. And there was an emphasis on symbolism within the work. Everything was highly realistic. There was almost no abstraction going on. And the objects that were used for symbols carried hidden meaning. So they worked in harmony within the painting, and they didn't stick out, but there were hidden meanings behind them that told a story. And then they started to use engravings, so printmaking became common, and instead of spending 10 years or 15 years of your life on this one painting, and that's all you had, you can make these prints so you had multiple pieces from one plate. And in the portrait of the Italian merchant, Giovanni and his wife, presumably in their home, this was painted by Jan van Eyck. There was a lot of symbolism in this piece, and what was different about this piece is that it was painted in oil paints. Before this, they used tempera, and that would dry very fast. So he was able to blend these colors and work on it for a really long time because it stayed wet longer. So, since this is a wedding piece, she's wearing a green dress. What do you think the green dress represents?
Fertility.
Which today we wear white dresses, and that's supposed to represent purity. But in this, she's wearing the green dress. And she also has her hand right here on her stomach. Julie, what do you think that represents?
is she pregnant?
No, she is not pregnant, but she looks pregnant. And that's what they want you to think. They want you to think about fertility and bearing children. And that means that she's willing to bear children. And she also is pulling her dress up just a little bit here. You can see a little bit of her undergarments. And that's also showing that she's willing to bear children. And that's part of their holy matrimony. And in the front here, there's a little dog. What do you think that dog means, Sharon?
Loyalty, like man's best friend.
It means loyalty. And the loyalty is not only to the couple and to their holy matrimony, but it's also loyalty to God. And then in the corner here, there's a pair of sandals. Does anyone know what the sandals could represent? You know, it means that they're on holy ground. So the sandals are off, and they're on the floor, and they're not wearing shoes, so they're on holy ground. And up in the top, there's a chandelier, and there's one candle. And it's not just because they forgot to put the other candles in, or they burned out and they wanted it really low light. There's one candle because that's supposed to represent God within their holy matrimony. And then in the way back, there's a convex mirror. And here is a close-up image of that. And in this part that's reflecting, you can see the priest and the painter and the couple. And the painter signed his name here so that he was there and he put the date. So he was a witness to this marriage. In Germany, there were the first major style characteristic developments that took place during the first quarter. There was a range of achievements. There were many different artists, and they had all these different styles that they were doing. And one of them was Stueber, and he created paintings and etchings full of symbolism. And then the Protestant Reformation happened. Does anybody know about the Protestant Reformation?
I do.
Can you tell me about it?
It began with Martin Luther, and he was a monk.
Yes.
And he posted a doctrine on the door. It was 95 theses of things that the Catholic Church were doing wrong. And this was a big deal. It caused deaths.
Yeah, there was a lot of bloodshed, and there also was a huge impact on the artists. A lot of the artwork was destroyed. Can you imagine if all your artwork was destroyed? Because of this religious conflict that was going on, it was so horrible, and these poor artists, their work was destroyed, new work was prohibited, so they either had to hide in their basement with a little candle to try to do something, or just not make any more work. So it was a really terrible time for them. And in some cases, they were still being able to produce artwork, but they had to come up with these new ways of creating imagery that didn't have pagan idols. So they started to use symbolism, and that way they could still have the same meaning in there, but it was a different piece, like say the dog or the candle, to represent these idols that they wanted to show. And this piece by Peter Bruegel is called The Peasant Dance. And this looks like a great party going on. You have people running over here, and there's people dancing in the background. Does anyone else see something that's going on that looks like a celebration?
Drinking,
Yep, they're drinking right here, at least surrounded jugs.
Kissing?
Yep, over in the corner there, they're kissing. Aaron, do you see anything that shows they're having a festival or party?
Giving the food to the little girl, I guess it'd be like one of those a festival or a Renaissance festival. So.
Yep, right there. Great answer. And also, right over here, you have a woman pulling a man into an inn. So they might have had a little too much to drink there. She's pulling him into the inn. He looks like he's resisting a little bit. I think she's going to win. So it looks like a great party, and that would be fine, except for on the tree here, there is a paper, and it has a picture of Mary. And it's supposed to be a holy day. They're supposed to be celebrating Mary today. And instead, they're giving into all their vices. They're drinking, they're dancing, they're having fun. There might be adultery going on or something going on in the inn. And they're just rebelling against everything that's going on in the church right now. And then Dürer, he was a great printmaker of his time and had great influence on the 16th century. Symbolism was a really prominent part of his work. So this is an engraving that he made, and this shows Adam and Eve, and he's still using the ideal forms. Like this wouldn't be a normal silhouette of a man. He's very chiseled, he has a six-pack and these amazing muscles, and that's not a common everyday thing. And she is very perfect, and they're both facing forward, and it reflects the Italian High Renaissance. There's lots of animals in this piece, and they're forming a triangle. So that triangle here, up to the parrot and down, that moves your eye around the composition. Does anyone have an idea of what the different animals could mean? We have a mouse in the front.
I think the mouse is a representation of the weakness of the man.
Yes, yes he is. And he's right in front of him. And then we have the snake. And that's something that reappears in a lot of artwork as a symbol. Julia, do you know what the snake means?
well, usually isn't the snake the devil?
Mm-hmm.
Evil.
Yep, the snake is the devil. And then you have a parrot in the top left corner.
I know the oxen, isn't that for fertility?
Mm-hmm. And the ox also means,
Calm and emotion.
yeah, perfect. And then you have the parrot up here. He is supposed to stop the serpent from doing evil. But in this piece, you can see that the parrot is looking over here. So he's not even paying attention to what's going on. He sees that Eve's already completely engaged in the snake, and she's holding an apple, and you have Adam here looking at her, and he's not really doing anything except for holding the branch of the tree and trying to get her to stop. And the parrot's sitting on that branch, but he's looking away. So it shows that she's giving in to evil and the devil with the serpent wrapped around the tree. And in the back, we have the mountain goat all the way at the top, and he's also looking the opposite way. Does anyone else see anything that could be a symbol?
Well, the leaves going in front of the genitalia could be the church's rebel towards nudism.
Yeah.
But I think it's also that now that they've taken the fruit from the tree, that they have knowledge of their nakedness.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yes, they do. Now that she's taken it and you see it in her hands, they do have that knowledge. And also the animals are representing the four humors. So each person's personality has all these different humors, but it's the one that's the most dominant